So today we're going to be modeling up a part that we're going to make on our vacuum former. The end part is going to look like this, where it's a shell of a mold that we're also going to develop. And I'm going to take you through the process of modeling this up in Onshape to be able to develop your part on a vacuum former. The first step that we went through is we extruded a block. In this situation is 3 inches by 3 inches by 2 in depth. We then went in and developed draft angles. To do this, I went in and selected draft angle from right here on it. You have to select a neutral plane, which I selected the top surface, and then I selected all of my exterior sides to be able to have them drafted out, and I selected it at a 7-degree angle. The next step, I went in and I filleted the part. To do this, I just selected each of my edges and I set it as a 0.5 inch radius, and that's going to allow for the material to lay down smoothly on the mold. At this point, I duplicated the part, and so you can see I'm going to have the same 3 steps in this version and in this version. In my first version here, which I'm going to call my formed part, I went ahead and I shelled out the part. And so what that means is I took the exterior surface and then I added material to the exterior and then removed the initial part. My shell thickness here is going to be 0.1 inch, and I can toggle the direction I'm going to want to go out in that situation. That's going to be the part that I'm going to utilize when I 3D model my final version, when I integrate this into my assembly. But I also need to make the part for my vacuum former that I can mold around. So in this situation, I had the exact same initial piece, which was my mold. And I want to do some initial calculations to make sure our part will come out the way we desire. First thing I'm going to do is check the total surface area of my part. And the total surface area is 43.402, and that includes the top and the bottom. And we're actually not going to be molding the bottom. So I'm going to go in, select this. Notice that my area here is 11.978. And I need to calculate the draw ratio. And so I'm going to take my total surface area and I'm going to subtract out this bottom area. And that's going to give me my shell surface, which is 31.42. I then can take my shell surface area and divide it by my footprint to get my draw ratio. I can then determine my wall thickness by taking my sheet stock that I'm working with, which is 1 millimeter, and dividing it by my draw ratio to determine that the walls of the part that I vacuum form are going to be 0.38 for a final thickness. With that in mind, I can go back to 3D modeling, where I went to my bottom surface and I added a sketch of a square, and I extrude it, but I extrude it with a taper angle. The reason being is that I'm going to 3D print this part, and I don't want to have a lot of support material on it, and adding it to this angle is going to avoid that use. I then, with that spot, I went in, add a sketch at the bottom, and add a vent hole. And what that's going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to take a air compressor and push air beneath my part to help it release, if that is an issue for me. My last step, I added 2 sketches here and here, and just extruded out a 1/2 inch. And what that gives me is it gives me a little bit of a ridge here to grab onto when I'm finished with that part. And now I can take that part to the 3D printer, print it off, and then smooth out the exterior sides and take it to the vacuum former and make my final container. Good luck with it.